My name is Amelia, and I've never liked family parties. Maybe it's because, in our house, celebrations always turned into competitions. My mother would spend hours polishing the silver cutlery and reminding me to, at least try to look successful, while my father would open another bottle of wine and laugh too loudly at Lily's stories. Lily, my younger sister, was the family's golden child. She had a high-paying job in New York City, a fancy apartment overlooking the Hudson, and a smile that could melt anyone's heart. Everyone adored her.
Me?
I was the quiet one who had moved back home to Ohio after life decided to knock me down a few steps. That evening, the house smelled of roast chicken, vanilla candles, and polished wood. The living room glowed with soft golden light, and laughter filled the air. I stood near the kitchen counter, clutching a glass of soda and pretending to be invisible. I wore a simple blue dress that I had bought for $25 at a thrift store downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was clean and comfortable, two things I could afford. My parents had gone all out for this party. There were gold balloons that said, "Congratulations, Lily," and a huge cake shaped like a briefcase. Even the plates were fancy, with silver rims. I tried to smile, but the truth was, I felt out of place in my own home. I had lost my design job a few months earlier when the small studio I worked for went bankrupt. Since then, I'd been freelancing, creating small logos and posters for local shops, scraping together $200 here, $100 there. It wasn't much, but it kept me going. Then Lily appeared, her red dress shimmering like it had its own spotlight. She looked like success in human form. Her hair was perfect, her lipstick flawless, and her laughter loud enough to pull everyone's attention. Behind her walked a tall man in a dark gray suit, calm and confident. I recognized him immediately, James Carter, her boss from New York. The man everyone whispered about, as if he were royalty. Lily's voice carried across the room as she brought him toward me. "Mr. Carter," she said sweetly, "I'd like you to meet my sister, Amelia." Then she turned to me with a mocking smile and added, "This is the failure of our family." The words dropped like a stone in water. My mother laughed first, nervously but not unwillingly. "Oh, Lily, don't be mean," she said, though she couldn't hide the small smirk curling at her lips. My father chuckled too, shaking his head. "She's got a point though," he said, raising his glass. "Our Lily's a star, and Amelia, well, she's still figuring things out." Laughter followed. Real laughter. The kind that makes you feel smaller with every sound. My cheeks burned. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. I managed a stiff smile and muttered, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Carter." He didn't laugh. His eyes, steady and unreadable, moved from Lily to my parents, then back to me. For a long moment, he said nothing. The room grew quiet. Even the clinking of glasses seemed to stop. Then he gave a faint smile and said calmly, "Interesting because you're fired." The silence that followed was like a thunderstorm with no sound. Lily blinked, her mouth falling open. My parents froze. Mr. Carter continued, his tone cool but sharp. "If that's how you treat your family, I don't want you managing people in my company." No one spoke. My heart pounded in my chest. He turned back to me, eyes softer now. "Amelia, sometimes failure is just what happens before real success." And just like that, everything I thought about my life, the shame, the loss, the smallness, shifted. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the beginning of everything that would change. For a few seconds after Mr. Carter said, "Because you're fired," I honestly thought I had imagined it. My brain tried to reject the words like a bad joke. But then I saw Lily's face drain of color, and my father's glass stop halfway to his mouth. My mother's smile froze, stretched and broken. The room, full of warm light and music just moments before, suddenly felt cold and too bright, like someone had pulled back a curtain I didn't know was there. Lily was the first to move. "Excuse me," she said, her voice high and sharp. "You can't be serious." She laughed in a choked way, waiting for him to laugh too, waiting for him to say he was just teaching her a lesson. He didn't. Mr. Carter stood very still, his expression calm but unmovable. "I am serious," he said. "I don't want a manager on my team who thinks humiliating people is entertainment. especially not her own sister. His eyes flicked to my parents. And I don't like the fact that everyone around you seemed to think it was acceptable. My father cleared his throat and stepped forward, wine glass trembling just enough for me to notice. Now, Mr. Carter, with all respect, this is a family matter. They were just joking around. You can't make decisions about work based on a silly little comment at a party. Mr. Carter's gaze hardened. I didn't base it on one comment. I based it on the way she said it, the way you all laughed, and the way your other daughter looked like she wanted to disappear. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open and swallow me, or at least hide me behind the furniture. Every eye in the room kept drifting toward me, as if I were suddenly the main show. I wrapped my fingers tighter around my glass and tried to control my breathing. Lily's voice cracked. "You can't fire me here," she hissed. "Not in front of them." "You're right," he said calmly. "Legally, this conversation continues on Monday in the office. You will receive everything you are owed in dollars, and your contract will be ended. But I want you to understand something now in this house." He glanced around the room. "I value character more than charm. And tonight, character is missing." The words hung in the air like smoke. Without another word, he turned toward me. For a moment, I panicked, thinking he was going to say something else that would burn me too. Instead, his face softened just a little. "Amelia, isn't it?" I nodded, my throat dry. "Yes." "You said you do design work?" he asked. It took me a second to remember I had actually told Lily that earlier in the kitchen, in a rare moment when she wasn't mocking me. "Yes," I said slowly. "Logos. Posters. Small things for local businesses. It's not a big deal." He tilted his head, studying me in a way that made me feel exposed but not unsafe. "Do you have a portfolio?" "I have an online folder," I said. "I've put my projects there. I was trying to apply for jobs again before." I glanced at the banner on the wall, the one shouting my sister's success. "Before all of this." "Good," he said. "I'd like to see it." The room shifted again. I could feel my parents staring at him, confused, maybe a little offended. Lily's eyes narrowed like she was trying to see the trick behind his words. My mother forced a thin smile. "Mr. Carter, you don't have to be polite. Amelia knows she hasn't exactly made it in life." Something inside me snapped at that. I set my glass down on the side table a little too hard. "I haven't made it yet," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "That doesn't mean I won't." The room went quiet again. My own words surprised me. I had never defended myself in front of them like that. Usually I stayed quiet and let their comments pass over me like rain I couldn't stop. But tonight, for the first time, I raised an umbrella. Mr. Carter's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Exactly," he said. Then he pulled a small card from his pocket and handed it to me. "Email me your portfolio tomorrow," he said. "I work with a team in another city. We're always looking for new designers. I can't promise anything, but I can promise a look." I stared at the card in my hand. His name, his email, the company logo printed cleanly in black ink. It felt heavier than paper. It felt like a door. "I thank you," I managed to say. He nodded once, then turned back to the room. "I think I've stayed long enough," he said. "Thank you for the invitation." His tone was polite, but the warmth was gone. After he left, the party didn't exactly end, but it limped along like a wounded animal. Some relatives tried to restart the music, others refilled their glasses, but the easy laughter never really came back. My parents moved in tight circles, whispering and shaking their heads. Lily disappeared into the hallway, and I could hear her angry voice behind a closed door, probably on the phone with someone who might tell her this was all unfair. I slipped away to my old bedroom, the one with the faded posters and the cracked mirror. I sat on the edge of my bed, Mr. Carter's card in my hand, and stared at it. My heart still hurt from the humiliation, but now there was something else under the pain, something small and stubborn. Hope. The next morning, I woke up with Mr. Carter's business card still on my nightstand, right next to my old alarm clock and a half-empty glass of water. For a few seconds, I wondered if I had dreamed everything. The party, the humiliation, the firing, the strange kindness in his eyes. But the card was real, and so was the dull ache in my chest from the things my family had said. I picked it up and ran my thumb over the printed letters. James Carter, Creative Director. Underneath that, the name of his company in clean, bold font. It looked like the kind of card successful people carried in their wallets without thinking twice. The kind of world my sister lived in. The kind of world I had only seen through screens and job listings that never went anywhere. For a few minutes, fear tried to talk me out of it. What if he was just being polite? What if he opens your portfolio and laughs? What if you send that email and never hear back? I had heard those voices before. They sounded a lot like doubt and a little like my mother. But there was another voice now, quieter but stubborn. It reminded me of what I had said in the living room. I haven't made it yet. That doesn't mean I won't. I took a deep breath, opened my old laptop, and turned it on. The screen flickered to life slowly, like it was waking up from a long nap. My portfolio folder sat in the corner of the desktop. Amelia_designs. I clicked it open and scrolled through my work. Logos for a bakery, posters for a small music bar, menus for a cafe, a simple website layout for a hair salon. My projects weren't big or famous, but they were mine. I wrote the email carefully, checking every line twice. Dear Mr. Carter, thank you for taking the time to speak with me last night. As requested, I'm sending you my portfolio link. I appreciate any feedback you're willing to give. Best regards, Amelia. I attached the link, hovered over the send button for a solid 10 seconds, and then clicked it before I could change my mind. The email went off into the world, and I sat there staring at the screen, feeling like I had just thrown a message into the ocean. There was nothing left to do but wait. The reply came faster than I expected. Less than an hour later, my inbox pinged. My heart jumped into my throat as I opened it. Amelia, I've skimmed through your portfolio. You have raw talent and a good sense of people-focused design. I'd like to meet and talk in person. I'll be in Chicago this week with my team. If you can come, let's meet on Thursday at 10 a.m. at the address below. No promises, but it's worth a conversation. James. Chicago. It wasn't across an ocean. It wasn't even across the country. It was one bus ride away from Ohio. Still, to me, it felt like a different life. I checked my bank account and saw the number glaring back at me. $314. Not much, but maybe enough. A round-trip bus ticket to Chicago cost about $80 if I booked it early. If I was careful, I could make it work. I could pack sandwiches instead of buying food at the station, drink water from the tap, and skip anything extra. At dinner, I cleared my throat and told my parents, I'm going to Chicago on Thursday. Mr. Carter wants to talk about a possible job. My mother frowned, as if I'd said I was moving to the moon. Chicago? With what money? I have some saved, I said. I'll take the bus. My father sighed, pushing his fork through his food. Don't get your hopes up too high, Amelia. People like him are busy. He was probably being nice because he felt guilty. Maybe, I thought. But being nice didn't explain the way he had fired Lily without blinking. He didn't seem like a man who did things just to make himself feel better. I'm going, I said, more firmly this time. If nothing happens, then nothing happens. But I need to try. No one wished me good luck. The conversation slid away into something else, and I finished my meal quietly. But deep inside, under all the fear, something steady was growing. On Thursday morning, I stood at the bus station with my backpack, my laptop, and $40 in my pocket after buying the ticket. The sky was gray, the platform busy with people going to work, visiting relatives, starting lives I would never know. When the bus finally pulled in, I climbed aboard and took a seat by the window. As the bus rolled out of my small town and into the open road, the houses and familiar streets began to blur behind me. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just running away from something. I was moving towards something. Chicago felt bigger than I expected. When I stepped off the bus, the first thing that hit me was the noise. The rumble of traffic, the distant sounds of sirens, people talking into phones, rolling suitcases, ordering coffee. The buildings rose up around the station like they were standing guard over a different world. I hugged my backpack a little closer and reminded myself I was here for a reason. I checked the address in Mr. Carter's email 3 times before I set off. The office was in a tall glass building near the river. As I walked, I tried not to stare at everything, but it was hard. The water, the bridges, the smell of roasted coffee from street carts. It all felt like a movie I had somehow walked into. My cheap flats clicked on the sidewalk as I passed people in sharp suits and polished shoes. I wondered if they could tell I didn't really belong here. At the front desk of the building, I gave my name, trying not to let my voice shake. The receptionist smiled politely, handed me a visitor badge, and told me to take the elevator to the 12th floor. The ride up felt too fast and too slow at the same time. I watched the numbers climb and forced myself to breathe. When the doors opened, I stepped into a bright office space filled with desks, large windows, and soft humming from computers and printers. People were talking in low voices, pointing at screens, shuffling papers. This wasn't a fantasy. This was where work happened. Real work. "Amelia," a familiar voice said. I turned and saw Mr. Carter walking toward me, wearing another suit that looked like it cost more than everything in my suitcase combined. But his eyes were the same, sharp but calm. "Glad you made it. Thank you for seeing me," I said. He led me into a small meeting room with glass walls. On the table sat a laptop and a notepad. "We'll keep this simple," he said. "I've looked through your portfolio, but I'd like you to walk me through a few pieces in your own words. Why you made certain choices. What you were trying to say." I opened my laptop with shaky hands, but once I started talking about my work, something strange happened. I forgot to be scared. I talked about the bakery logo and how I chose warm colors because the owners wanted people to feel at home the moment they saw it. I explained the poster for the music bar and how I had used bold lines and simple shapes to make it easy to read from across the street. I showed him the cafe menu, how I'd arranged the sections so people wouldn't feel overwhelmed by choices. He listened, nodding now and then, asking small questions. "Why that font? Why that layout? Who are you thinking about when you designed this?" "Always the person looking at it," I said. "I guess I don't just want things to look pretty. I want them to feel kind, easy, like they're on your side." He sat back for a moment, then gave a small smile. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." My heart thumped. "Is that good?" "It is," he said. "You're not polished yet. You need training, feedback, and time. But I'd rather have someone with heart and rough edges than someone slick and empty." He closed the laptop gently. "I'm willing to offer you a junior designer position on my team here in Chicago. The starting salary is $3,000 a month in dollars. We'll review it after 6 months." For a second, I forgot how to speak. My whole life, people had treated me like I should be grateful for scraps. Now someone was offering me a real job, in a real office, in a real city. I don't know what to say," I whispered. "Say you'll think about it," he replied. "You don't have to decide right this second. You'd need to move here, find a place, adjust. That's a lot. But I wanted you to know this is real." I looked out the glass wall at the city beyond the windows. Cars moved like tiny lights along the streets. Somewhere down there, people were going to work, to lunch, to lives they had built step by step. "I've spent a long time letting other people tell my story," I said slowly. "I think I'm ready to write my own." I turned back to him and nodded. "I want the job." His smile widened just a little. "Good. Human Resources will send you the paperwork. We'll help you with the basics. You start next month." On the bus ride back to Ohio, the city lights faded behind me, but they stayed alive in my mind. I could already see the next chapters of my life shifting, opening. I would have to tell my parents. They would doubt me, question me, maybe even mock me again. But now, I had something stronger than their words. I had proof I wasn't a failure. I had a place waiting for me in Chicago, a chance that came from my work, my choices, my voice. As the bus rolled through the dark, I rested my head against the window and closed my eyes. For the first time in a long time, my future didn't look like a blank wall. It looked like a door, and this time, I was the one walking through it.